Hi everyone, today I'll be presenting a detailed sport analysis of the NCAA men's baseball. This presentation is structured to help coaches better understand the unique demands of the sport so we can program more intelligently, reduce injury risk, and ultimately improve performance. We'll start by looking at the sport from a structural and physiological lens. Baseball is a deceptive sport. On the surface, it looks slow-paced, but the bursts of intensity are extremely demanding and require specialized preparation. Baseball games consist of 9 innings, but they can extend into extra innings. Each inning has unpredictable pacing, meaning athletes alternate between long periods of low intensity and short bursts of maximal effort. This creates a very unique load profile. The game is about readiness. Fielders may go 15 minutes without moving, then suddenly need to sprint full speed or make a dynamic throw. Pitchers, for example, throw between 80 to 120 pitches per game. Each pitch is a full body, high velocity action. Hitters execute violent rotational swings and sprint between bases. Fielders react with fast acceleration and high force throwing mechanics. While these efforts are short, they are performed at maximum output, so often under fatigue later in the game. So for pitchers, the work to rest ratio is roughly 1 to 15 to 1 to 30. So for every pitch, there may be 15 to 30 seconds of downtime. But that doesn't mean it's easy. Maintaining a high output with extended downtime actually makes recovery and conditioning more difficult. This means we need to prepare players to stay sharp under long rest periods, not just build output. Baseball is one of the most tactically complex sports. It's not just about athleticism. Pitchers must think through pitch sequences based on the batter, game state, and defensive alignment. Fielders must adjust positioning every pitch. Batters track movement patterns and tendencies. So we're not only training physical systems, but we're also training cognitive systems. Players must make split-second decisions under pressure while staying mentally locked in for hours. That's a unique challenge in baseball. Now that we've covered how the sport moves, let's break down the physical systems that support those movements. Baseball might not look like an endurance sport, but the physiological demands are incredibly specific and vary drastically by position. ATP PCR system is the primary energy contributor in baseball. Whether it's a pitch, a swing, or a sprint from home to first, nearly all actions fall into that system. Anaerobic glycolysis comes into play for repeated bursts, like multi-pitch innings for a long offensive sequence. The aerobic system supports overall recovery between pitches, innings, and games. A strong aerobic base doesn't make you faster, but it allows players to recover better and maintain output later in the game. A typical NCAA baseball week includes 3 to 4 games and 2 to 3 practices, often back to back. There may only be 1 to 2 days available for actual true recovery. That schedule means we can't just stack volume, we need to carefully plan when and how we load athletes. Pitchers need pitch counts and rest windows. Fielders and hitters can benefit from intermittent sprint work and interval recovery protocols to stay sharp throughout long series. So pitchers need core to extremity force transfer. The shoulder, scapula, and trunk must work in a precise sequence to generate and tolerate high rotational torque. Catchers, on the other hand, squat for hours. They need mobility in the hips, knees, and spine, plus the strength to pop up and throw instantly. Their position is one of the most grueling in the game due to the combination of flexibility, endurance, and reactivity. Fielders require fast lateral movement, rapid acceleration, and the ability to throw at high velocity without warning. They spend most of their game on alert, even if they don't touch the ball for 20 minutes. Hitters rely on rotational power, course sequencing, and elite hand-eye coordination. They must track a 90 miles per hour pitch, make a split-second decision, and execute a violent, precise swing. Vision training, med ball work, and trunk rotation development should all be staples of their programming. With so much variability in effort and recovery across positions, we need to individualize our approach, keep the acute chronic workload ratio under 1.5, and avoid weekly volume spikes over 30%. Use pitch count tracking, sprint monitoring, and position-specific workloads. Pitchers and catchers should be flagged if they accumulate too much volume too quickly. Aerobic conditioning helps recovery across all roles, but especially for athletes who play multiple games in a row without full rest. In this section, we'll focus on the specific performance metrics that help us evaluate baseball athletes. These KPIs give coaches objective data to guide development, assess progress, and inform game day decisions. We'll break them down by position, including both performance stats and physical attributes. For fielders, we look at their consistency and coverage. Fielding percentage gives us a sense of reliability, showing how often they complete plays cleanly. Range factor gives us insight into how involved they are, how much space they cover, and how active they are defensively. Advanced stats like defensive runs saved and ultimate zone rating help us to understand their true value by comparing them to league averages and accounting for things like arm strength, reaction time, and error frequency. Pitchers are often evaluated by their ERA, but more modern metrics provide a clearer picture. FIP, or fielding independent pitching, strips away the noise of defensive support and focuses only on strikeouts, walks, hit batters, and home runs. The K to BB ratio helps us assess their command and control. Walks and hits per inning pitched tells us how often they're allowing runners to reach base. These are the numbers that help us track efficiency and fatigue, especially across a long season. Catching metrics are all about speed, reaction, and subtle influence. Hop time measures how fast a catcher can transfer and throw to second base. It's a key stat for controlling the run game. Caught stealing percentage adds context to how effective they are defensively. Pitch framing is another powerful KPI, showing how well they manipulate the zone and earn strikes for their pitcher. We also monitor passed balls and wild pitches, which reflect the catcher's ability to control difficult throws. For hitters, we want to know how often they get on base and how much damage they do. On base percentage combines hits, walks, and hit by pitches into one metric. Slugging percentage shows how much power they produce per at bat. On base plus slugging is a quick snapshot of offensive value, but perhaps the most useful is weighted on base average, which gives extra value to doubles, triples, and home runs. It's a more complete view of hitting impact. Beyond the stat sheet, we also track physical KPIs that affect on-field performance. Sprint speed, particularly over 10 to 30 yards, is important for base running and fielding transitions. Rotational power is crucial for both hitters and throwers. It can be assessed using medicine ball throws or velocity-based tools. Reactive agility tells us how quickly an athlete can respond to unpredictable movement demands. And finally, shoulder strength and range of motion give us insight into injury risk, especially for pitchers and outfielders. In this section, we'll take a look at the most common limitations athletes face in NCAA baseball. These include injury patterns, position-specific risks, and movement deficiencies that can be addressed through smart programming. Pitchers are most at risk for upper extremity injuries. UCL tears, rotator cuff tendonitis, and labral tears are all common and often result from overuse, poor mechanics, or sudden workload spikes. Fielders, especially infielders, face high rates of hamstring strains, ankle sprains, and ACL injuries. They may go from complete stillness to a max effort move with very little time to prepare their body. About 1 in 5 shoulder injuries in college baseball happen to infielders, largely due to awkward throwing positions and repetitive stress. Catchers have one of the toughest roles on the field. They're constantly squatting, absorbing foul tips, and performing throws from awkward positions. This leads to knee issues like meniscus tears and patellar tendinopathy, and chronic low back pain is also common. Hitters often experience oblique strains due to repeated high velocity rotational swings, and because they face pitches coming in at 90 miles per hour, there's always a risk for hand and head injuries, including concussions. For pitchers, the biggest risks come from volume and poor sequencing. High pitch counts without adequate rest lead to shoulder degeneration, while poor trunk rotation mechanics increase elbow varus torque, a key contributor to UCL tears. Catchers deal with stress to the lumbar spine and knees due to prolonged squatting and high force transitions. These athletes need structured recovery and mobility protocols built into their weekly plans, especially during back to back games. Across all positions, most injuries don't happen during training, they happen in games. That's because intensity, unpredictability, and fatigue are higher. Many programs overlook the need for individualized recovery strategies or fail to monitor load on a positional level. When an athlete plays through minor pain or imbalance, those issues often compound into chronic problems over time. Prevention begins with awareness, load tracking, and intelligent rotation. One of the most common mistakes we see is using the same program for every athlete. Pitchers, catchers, and hitters all have completely different movement profiles and stress points. Another major issue is ignoring small imbalances like push pull or hip core asymmetries, which accumulate over a long season and increase injury risk. Poor swing or throwing mechanics, especially when fatigue sets in, can gradually tear down connective tissue. Coaches need to build systems that monitor athletes holistically movement, recovery, mechanics, and even pain reports. That's how you build longevity in a sport like baseball. Now that we understand the demands and limitations, this section focuses on what actually leads to success. We'll go position by position and cover strategies for building more resilient, better performing baseball athletes. Fielders don't just need speed, they need the ability to move in unpredictable directions. Lateral quickness, change of direction, and rapid acceleration all matter. We can improve this with reactive agility drills that simulate real fielding scenarios, unplanned breaks on a ball, transitions into throws, and recovery steps. Coordination and hand eye tracking should be built into the drills. Strengthening the shoulders and hips supports throwing mechanics and minimizes injury. The key is combining mobility, reaction, and efficient movement patterns. Success as a pitcher comes down to two things really, staying healthy and staying consistent. That starts with pitch count protocols, but it extends to trunk control, shoulder stability, and rotational sequencing. Pitchers need regular biomechanical assessments, not just for velocity, but also to monitor how they create torque. We want to catch inefficiencies in trunk rotation or arm slot before they lead to actual breakdown. Training should focus on scapular stability, core integration, and eccentric control. Load tracking, whether it's with RPE, pitch tracking, or wearables, should be part of every week. Catchers are endurance athletes in disguise. They need to hold squat positions for hours and stay mentally sharp for every pitch. Mobility in the hips and ankles is crucial. We also need to train their ability to transition from squat to throw without hesitation. That means working on pop time mechanics under fatigue, using position specific strength and conditioning. A well rounded program also includes trunk control and lumbar spine support to reduce chronic stress. For hitters, rotational power is everything, but it only matters if it's controlled and well timed. We train this with med ball throws, banded rotation, and bat speed drills, but don't forget the cognitive piece. Pitch recognition and visual tracking are huge. Hitting is reactive. A hitter has milliseconds to read pitch location, speed, and spin. Incorporating vision based drills and pitch tracking into training bridges the gap between weight room work and plate performance. At the end of the day, baseball isn't a one size fits all sport. A pitcher's workload looks nothing like a catcher's. A fielder's sprint demands are totally different from a hitter's swing pattern. Success comes from monitoring the right KPIs, whether that's pop time, whip, or WOBA, or sprint speed, and adjusting the program accordingly. Wearable tech, player dashboards, and weekly readiness check-ins can help us tailor programming, catch early signs of fatigue, and make smarter long-term decisions. Now we're going to bring everything together. This is where we connect the dots from sport demands to training solutions and highlight what matters most in creating a successful development plan for baseball athletes. Baseball athletes need to be powerful and precise, but they also need to recover well, stay resilient, and make high-level decisions under fatigue. The sport is built on short bursts of maximum output, whether it's a 95 mile per hour pitch or a rotational swing, and those bursts are separated by long, unpredictable downtime. That's why conditioning isn't just about intensity, it's about energy system control, workload tolerance, and repeatability. Training must reflect the real rhythm of the actual game. There's one thing that makes or breaks a baseball season, it's load management. Most injuries happen in games, not practices. This means intensity, not volume, is the limiting factor, so we have to track weekly workload, avoid spikes over 30%, and monitor our ACWR across all positions. Pitchers and catchers are the red flag roles. They carry the heaviest movement stress and need strict rest, recovery, and mobility work. Off season should focus on building capacity, mobility, rotational strength, and aerobic readiness. In-season shifts to maintenance, refinement, and protection. Right now, we have more tools than ever. Velocity-based training, wearable sensors, and motion capture systems give us live data on pitch speed, swing force, and fatigue markers. But the tech only matters if it drives smarter decisions. We can use these tools to create individualized training progressions, identify at-risk athletes early, and run biomechanical breakdowns to fix inefficiencies in throwing, hitting, or sprinting mechanics. The combination of tech and coaching intuition creates the best outcomes. Success in baseball isn't about doing more, it's about doing what's necessary. That means building programs around athlete roles, injury risks, and performance goals. It means managing fatigue, measuring progress, and adapting as the season evolves. We're not just developing athletes for the next game, but we're developing them for the long run. Longevity and performance go hand in hand, and the best programs understand both. Thank you.